Hello everyone. I know you don't normally see me with my hair because of everything that's been done to it, but I'm going to go right into this because this is going to be a long video. So the reason I wanted to come out here today is because two things. One, in spite of everything that's been going on, the emphasis has been and remains on my medication. That's one. Two, the ruse was to get me out of the house so that they could go into the house and either plant evidence or try to find any evidence I've got against them and get rid of it. And with the culmination of all that, the likelihood is that they will try to send me into... Hey, Brian. Nice to see you here. They will try to get me into hospital on the grounds that I'm not safe around other people or some bullshit like that. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to reveal everything to you, because if they section me, then it affects how admissible my statements are in court. It affects my ability to travel. It affects my ability to be taken seriously. So that's why I'm revealing all this. Because while my statements might not be admissible in court, the public can see everything. Well, those who are allowed to see it anyway. You can see everything. This is my insurance. So if they're going to lock me up in hospital over some bullshit that they know full well I didn't cause, then I've got to expose everybody. And everything's got to come to light. Now, this actually begins... I've spoken about the police several times, and gathered by their reactions and everybody else's reactions, the police are very much involved in this, right? So the police are very much involved in everything that's going on, according to their responses to the reports that I've made. Now, police are involved, and they've actually been involved much earlier than I actually thought, because the main perps in my case that I'm about to go into, they stretch back all the way before Chatsworth Road, before the police arrest. So this goes all the way back to Harlesden, okay? At the very least, and I do mean at the very least, because I've been bullied and I've been abused for a long time. I've got a lot of dirt on a lot of people. Way before anything to do with the police or anything to do with my moving or whatever, I've got a lot of dirt on a lot of people. The reason why I'm focusing on my moving, though, is so that you can actually tie everything together and then make up your own mind about what's going on. Because for me to be repeatedly harassed on this level with every move that I make, it just doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to start off with the first perp. Natalie Lane, premeditated harassment, stalking and coercive murder. Now, what this woman did was used her children, friends and family to gaslight me. I've got it logged here. She told children to spy on me and use electronic weapons on me. Now, from what she told them that the electronic weapons were fucking with my radio, because I used to turn my radio up every time they used to try and harass me. I used to turn it up so I could hear them. As it turns out, all those heart palpitations that I'd been having and all the burns that I'd been experiencing whilst living in Harlesden was actually due to the children, but they themselves didn't know that it was being used on me like that, because they were lied to. They were also low-key encouraged by their mother to harass me. I heard everything from that bedroom that I was staying in at the time, because it's right next door to the kitchen. I heard them talking about, you spy on that mad girl and see what she's doing, and then get back to me on everything that's happened. Now, the older one was more reluctant to do it, but the younger one was all in. She was like, okay, let's do it. The police and Genesis were also helping her behind the scenes in order to get me out of the place that I was originally living. Now, with regards to the police, they did the same thing that they did at Chatsworth Road. Every time I reported about harassment, thank you, Brian. Every time I reported to the police about her and her friends harassing me and using my mental health, because her friends like to use my mental health a lot. So every time I reported to the police and the council about her, okay, first of all, the council, when I sent that email to them saying that these people were harassing me because of my mental health, the council actually wrote back and said, we can't do anything about that. These people have a whole antisocial division, and they're telling me that there's nothing they can do. And then they turn around and reverted it back to my mental health. When the police came over to the house, I complained about the harassment. There was a relative of mine that I was staying with. They supported the neighbour rather than me. Right? Now, I went to the police with Natalie Lane's harassment and her behaviour. And what the police would do was they tried to play down what was going on with the neighbours. They'd say, oh, they can do what they want in their own house. Hold up, I've just told you that they're spying on me and they're harassing me. And your response is to tell me that it's their business what they do in their own house. It's my business what I do in mine. Why are they spying on me? Why are they reporting back to their mother on what I'm doing? Why am I getting fucking heart palpitations? Why is my radio acting up and these kids are bragging about it? There's a lot more going on that you're not telling me, and I've got evidence of that. When they used to lie to my face and tell me, we'll go over to the neighbours and investigate it, what did they do? They went back in their car and drove off. That used to happen a lot. Okay? What I think happened was that, and also Genesis were involved as well, because what Genesis did was Notting Hill Genesis. What they did was, instead of investigating the actual harassment, they sent somebody round to get complaints from me, waste my time, indulge me, and then when all the investigations are made, they decided that I should move out rather than the people harassing me. This is the first in a long trend of authority figures doing this whenever I report harassment. They revert it back to my mental health. They waste my time by trying to flatter me, and then they do nothing and instead penalise me by kicking me out of the house. So, that's what Genesis did, and I think the reason they did that is so that the person I was living with could be more vulnerable to eviction. Because there's no way like one person should have that much space to themselves. So they wanted that person out of the house for years. They've wanted them out for years. And now that I'm out of there, they're more vulnerable to eviction. That means they can't even pick their nose without Natalie Lane say so. I don't know if she's still living there. She probably still is with her kids. But that person that I used to live with, they can't do jack shit without her say so. I can't even go back there. Because there was a time where I confronted her and I said, because of what you've done, you've basically ruined my life and you destroyed my life. And I hope you're proud of yourself. And she's one of those people that you can't really speak in front of. Your words kind of get tangled up and twisted. That you only get that with people who are evil. You don't get that with people who are good. That woman's a psychopath. And the whole time, this is the basic bitch move that she always relies upon whenever she gets caught out in her bullshit. She hides behind her kids. When I confronted her about her behaviour, she said, oh, please don't hurt my children. She knew damn fucking well I didn't want to hurt none of her kids. She knew that damn well. But when she gets caught out in her bullshit, she uses the kids as cover. That's what she does, and that's what she's always done. Okay? Now, I'm going to move on. Oh yeah, before I move on, I want to say that she was friends with another perp, dark-skinned person, used to wear blonde hair a lot. Mother and daughter used to look the same. They were both perps. Natalie used to be conversing with them a lot. And then there's like another notable perp that either owned or ran a nursery at the end of the road where I used to live. They owned a nursery at the end of the road where I used to live, and they were one of the most notable perps on that road and in that town of Harleston. So it's not just Natalie Lane, there are other people surrounding her, but I focus on the main perps for context. So that was Natalie Lane back in Harleston, right? Now, let me move on. Vanessa Catani, incitement to violence, premeditated harassment, stalking and coercive murder. When me and her used to be friends and used to have conversations, she gaslit me on the regular. I even let her meet my family. I let her meet my mum at the time when my mum could drive. I let her meet my grandparents, well, my grandmother anyway. But there are people in my family that she met. She used to love bomb me, give me food, give me drink. That's what narcissists do. They love bomb you. Give me food, give me drink. I had fun with them. We watched films and stuff like that. And the entire time she did that, she gaslit me the entire time. Introduced me to her friends and everything. That's what narcissists do when they're trying to infiltrate you. They love bomb you. They love bomb you so that when you fall out, it looks as if you have actually engineered the situation and incited everything. That's what they do. So she used to gaslight me on the regular when we were friends. I want to bring this up because this is very important. Whilst all the other people looking at my Twitter and my Facebook are looking at it unlawfully, Vanessa Catani was not looking at it unlawfully. It was not illegal for her to look at it. It was not illegal for Nathana Findlater, a cohort of hers, to look at it. It was not unlawful for my neighbours, the cursed spawn and her family of devils, to look at it either. It wasn't unlawful for any original gang stalkers in that house when I moved in. It wasn't unlawful for any of them to look at it. And the reason for that is that I actually gave them my email, my social media. I gave them my social media address under the guise that it was exposing gang stalking. So they were not on my Twitter illegally. They were not on my Facebook illegally. They were not on any social media of mine illegally. And they still lied. When I confronted them about it, you see, that this is what they used to do. They used to gaslight to all their friends, talk about my social media to all their friends, and then when I actually confronted them about it, they acted like they didn't know what I was talking about. I even turned around and told them, look, I've been mentioning you on social media. They acted like they didn't know what I was talking about. And and Vanessa in particular, when I mentioned it to her, she said, as long as you're not using my name, cool. And yet you're gaslighting to all your friends, engaging in gaslighting smear campaigns about my Twitter to everybody. Almost every single thing that you ever did was in response to my Twitter in order to win an argument. And when I come to you in front of your face, you deny it? You don't have nothing to say? I've got a long list of things against Vanessa Catani here. She also called the police about my Twitter, but presumably because I didn't name anybody, the police felt like they couldn't do anything, or if they did anything, it was presumptuous, so they didn't do anything about it. So what she did call the police on me for, what she did come down, what the police did come down for was when she called the police over my piano playing, and she called the police over me filming her when I was out in the hallway. I didn't actually film her in her room. I filmed her when she was out in the hallway, and I talked about how her behaviour and the behaviour of everyone in the house and the behaviour of the staff tied in with the national security strategy when it comes to how to handle terrorism. If you look at the national security strategy from the Institute of Public Policy Research, 2009, it's a 2009 document. One of the founders of that, or one of the people on the committee, was Lord Paddy Ashdown. You look at that document and look at everything through it. Everything that I've been describing in my life, you can look at that document and it's uncanny how much it matches. And when I was actually filming in that hallway, when she called the police, she had nothing to say. She was black. She had nothing to say. She couldn't think of anything to say. That's because she knew I was right. You remember I went on my YouTube and they were mocking me for talking about MI5 and MI6. You heard me on my live saying to the police that I think it goes beyond the police. It does go beyond the police. I know that, and I've been knowing that for a while. But what I wanted to do was let the information unfold first before I said anything. So that was on this. That was in the you know, the assault video. That was filmed back on the 15th of April 2015, I think it was. That's on my YouTube, right? It was on that day that she started the police calling bullshit, right? So the police came over. I tried to explain anything to them. There was this big fucking lurch-looking motherfucker who was rude and disrespectful. And then there was the second police officer who tried to tell me what to do in my own place of abode. And then, like clockwork, when I started talking about the harassment that was going on with me, and I started talking about what was happening, are you taking any medication? Are you mentally ill? They always rely on the same goddamn tactics all the time, and that's exactly what he did. Tried to revert it back to my mental health when I talked about the harassment that she was doing. When that didn't work and they didn't hospitalize me, that's when the assault happened. Now, what was supposed to happen was that it was supposed to be a shakedown designed to make me lose my temper and attack them, but it didn't happen like that. What actually ended up happening was I ended up cussing them back. They were screaming, and you could hear them. They were screaming at the top of their lungs, wanting me to punch the fuck out of them. And then when that didn't work, the male one in that video lost his temper and struck me in the face. Now, when I say he struck me in the face, I'm saying it very loosely. It was like this. And I'm the kind of person where I don't care if it's light or heavy. Don't fucking touch me. So I took up the broom and attacked them back with it. Yeah. So the second time they called the police came over, right? And, you know, we were all laughing and joking and all that kind of thing, you know, making fun of the perps because they felt like if they softened me up, then I wouldn't say anything. But I told them about what was going on and everything else. And they said, oh, well, we really can't do anything because it's their word against. Do you know how many times the police came over the house about that incident and said the same bullshit? Oh, it's your word against theirs. And if we took them in, we'd have to take you in. And I'm like, what? If that's what it takes, then take everybody in. I don't understand what the problem is. So the police came over to my room, wasted my time, just like they usually do, right? Then when the police, for the second time, came over and did not take me in, I heard Vanessa Katani saying to Nathana and Speedy, listen, let's say this, right? Let's say that we tried to calm her down and she attacked us. So they called the ambulance. And that's exactly what the ambulance, on that video, I filmed the ambulance coming over. That's exactly what they came over for. They came over to investigate the claims made by Vanessa Katani, Nathana Findlater and Speedy. They came over because they started saying that I was walking around hitting folks when they tried to calm me down. Yeah. So they came over. And they failed to actually take me in once again. I sounded pretty irrational. When I look back at the video, I did sound pretty irrational. I said, you're blatantly here to try and drug me and get me hospitalized for no fucking reason. Yeah? And they went about their business. And that was just one incident. That's just one incident in one day. This woman was relentless. Hang on, let me get the list here. She involved her friends in gaslighting me and attacking me. She involved her friends in doing it, right? One of those friends included Maze, who, when I was playing the piano, he used to bang on the wall until I stopped. I was on my fucking headphones, and he used to bang on the wall doing that shit in order to defend her. right? She also had another one of her friends, Nisha. Now, Nisha, I think that was her name. Nisha was in my chakra healing course, right? And what she used to do was she used to come to those classes with me. We'd get to know each other. And she'd report back to Vanessa on her findings, on everything that has been going on her findings. Now, when I was doing the chakra healing course, I was actually getting better. I was healing. I was doing well. She couldn't stand that, right? So, yeah, Nisha was feeding her information. The two of them also involved a third person who I am not going to name. They involved a third person, showed that person my Twitter, yeah, and that person looked at my Twitter and thought it was stupid. I don't blame her because she doesn't understand the situation. That's why I'm not mentioning her name, right? So, what those two did, now what Nisha did was illegal, because Nisha was looking at my Twitter when she wasn't supposed to. Vanessa basically involved all her friends in looking at my Twitter when they were not supposed to be looking at it. I didn't show it to them. I showed it to her and the people in the house and the people next door to the house. I didn't show it to anybody and everybody. I showed it to a few specific people in the house for a reason. And in involving all her friends in the Twitter mentions and trying to get them to bully me on her behalf, that's illegal. Now, what else? Also note that I'm not doing these things in chronological order because I write them as I remember them. So these things are not in chronological order. If you ask me what happened before or after, Nisha was after the attack and the gaslighting while we were friends was before, right? So we move on to Cornelia. Cornelia was tight with Vanessa as well. When I used to do exercises in my room, with regards to, because I work with the occult a lot, and I was doing exercises from that book, and I think Cornelia was downstairs with Vanessa looking at the secret footage, and Cornelia was asking her why is she rubbing her tits for. So they were looking at my secret footage of me downstairs in the kitchen while I was upstairs doing my exercises. Now I rub my boobs because, you know, to help it circulate and stuff like that. So I do that. I used to do that a lot. And what Cornelia also did was when I showed her evidence of burns on my skin of, you know, you can't really see them because they're so light. Because my skin absorbs some of the burning. I used to show her marks on my skin of I used to show people marks on my skin of where the electronic weapons used to burn me, because if you notice, all TIs have like brittle skin. I don't have that because I moisturize with olive oil, but a lot of TIs have really brittle skin and they have burn marks all over their bodies. They have little pinpricks all over their bodies, and it's always in an establishable pattern, like it will be in a triangle or a circle or something like that. One of the TIs who died had like a triangle around his heart when they looked at the autopsy. So if you look at all TIs, they all have brittle ass skin, brittle ass hair, because of the microwave wave weapons being fired on them. Anyway, when I showed it to Cornelia on my arm, what she wrote on one of my risk assessments or something like that, she wrote on one of my risk assessments, she wrote that I was harming myself with a cigarette butt. Now, they know damn well that I don't smoke, right? They couldn't even come up with an original reason as to why I burned myself. I was burning sage at the time. They didn't even mention that. They didn't even mention me, you know, that the fact that sage was burning on my skin. They could have mentioned that I was burning sage and it accidentally got on my skin. They could have even lied that I burned myself with sage. Instead they said I burned myself with cigarettes. How the fuck is a non-smoker gonna burn herself with cigarettes? Now, Naomi Rose, who used to be management of Brent Mind, she was closely linked with Vanessa Catani at the time as well, because there was one time where, and I found this really weird. I was inside, Vanessa Catani was outside with Naomi Rose and somebody else, and I think, no, I don't think I know what I heard. Naomi Rose was asking Vanessa Catani if she wanted a lift. She has never asked any other perp or tenant that question. How the fuck close are you if you're offering each other lifts like that? And they also used to, and it wasn't just her. Naomi Rose, Catherine Newton at the time, another one who I showed my social media, so she didn't commit any crimes in looking at it. Katie and Monique, they've all had nightly phone calls with her. They all meet in secret. They all used to meet in secret when I was at Chatsworth, downstairs in the front room, when I was upstairs, and they used to be talking about me, talking about what was on my social media, talking about what I was talking about. They all used to try and have a plan as to what they were going to do with me. Vanessa was really, really keen to get me into hospital. Now, you have to notice this about the perps. Out of all the people living in that house at Chatsworth at the time, all the perps had been in hospital. I hadn't been in hospital. For some reason, they were keen to get me into hospital and get me admitted. Now, I'm going to touch on that later. All right. Support workers and managers from Mind usually worked with perps, and they usually do work with perps because they're a little bit higher up and they're managing everything, right? Okay, now hold on for this one, right? You know I'm into the occult, and you know that the people involved in this gang stalking, or the people funding this gang stalking, are low-key into the occult. They've done experimentations into the occult. So it's not just weapons and drugs that they're working with, it's also metaphysics, right? So Vanessa paid for hexes on my soul. There was one time where I said she should have died in a womb, so she paid somebody to hex me to have stillborn children, to give birth to stillborn children. So any children I had would be stillborn. Those are the hexes that she put on me to have stillborn children. She also had a chant curse whenever I started singing, and she used to do this during the time when I used to sing high, or when I used to do my chakra chanting exercises. But what she didn't know at the time was that weapons were actually being fired on me. It didn't work because of her curse. It worked because of the electronic weapons that were being fired on me. And that was to do with the cursed spawn and her family. And I'll get to that when I'm finished with Vanessa. She often used hexes to try and win an argument. And the Brent Mind support staff weren't the only ones watching secret footage with her, secret camera footage with her when they were indecently assaulting me. She also invited some of her friends to do the same thing. I think Maze was involved as well, because at one point he basically taunted that, oh, she looks hot, out of nowhere. I don't even think I even mentioned anything on my social media at the time for him to be saying that, but for some reason he wanted to taunt out loud, you look hot. So you make up your own mind about that. You know what, hang on a sec. So let me look at this. So on one fire drill, there was one fire drill where we all had to come out, and Vanessa started whining about not wanting to look at my face, because she'd been looking at my naked body on a hidden camera, and she knew she'd been looking at it, and she can't look in my face knowing that. And now I'm thinking to myself, if you can look at my naked body on a hidden camera, you can damn sure look at my fucking face, bitch. Right. So, alright, so what I've got written here is about Saturday the 15th of April 2014. So I've got it written here, hang on. So what I've written here is, you can't really see it because it's out of focus, but it says Vanessa Catani was the main orchestrator of that attempted institutionalization in April. That evening, when she called the police on me for filming in her bedroom, I wasn't filming in her bedroom. I mentioned this before, right? So that day, Nathana talked shit when I filmed the fuse box being off after she turned it off. I don't know if I still have that footage. I probably don't. And the man she brought to play diplomat was called Speedy, like I said. She said that she brought that man round because he cared about her and he wanted to do what was best for her. He loved her and all this other bullshit, right? So I think the reason she invited him there is because he had a piece. Because she used to tell me he had a piece. And I think he must have threatened something like he was going to kill himself or her if she didn't give him the love that she wanted, the love that he wanted from her. So she brought over a dangerous man into a house full of vulnerable women knowingly, just to shake me down to cover up her crime. So what she also did was, I think this is on my Twitter as well, she reported one of my videos that showed Nathana Finlay stalking me to the internet cafe of Vanessa Catani's orders. Now, I used to go to an internet cafe called Loyalty Cafe, which is down the road from here, right? And I used to go in there a lot to escape the bullshit. There were perps in there as well, but it wasn't as bad because I wasn't living there, obviously. So Nathana came over there to sit down and watch what I was doing. Yeah. I don't know what the hell Vanessa was thinking telling her to go down there, but I managed to get it on film and I uploaded it onto YouTube, and YouTube took it down on the grounds that somebody reported it for harassment or reported it. That was Vanessa. Vanessa reported it because she wanted to cover it up. She wasn't doing it for Nathana. She was doing it for herself, because if Nathana got caught stalking me at the internet cafe, she got caught stalking me, then Vanessa's ass would be in the frame, and she knows that. So she wasn't doing a damn thing for Nathana, she was doing it for herself. Like many perps, she often broke into my room. This is not an unusual occurrence. They're breaking into my room right now and trying to fuck up my shit while I'm out here doing my live. Every time I go out, they're in my fucking room or they're in my fucking flat. And quite often she didn't do this alone, but she confessed on a phone conversation with somebody else that she tried to piss on my Californian sage. She tried to piss on my sage. And I actually made a video about that on YouTube as well. There's a possibility that she may have had something drugged or contaminated in my room, because in one of my YouTube videos, I'm wearing violet glasses, they're chakra glasses. I'm wearing them and I am slurring all over the place. Bear in mind, I wasn't on any medication back then. Okay? I wasn't on any medication. I wasn't, there was nothing going on like that. I wasn't on any medication. I wasn't drinking. I wasn't on any drugs. And yet I was slurring all over the place. Why? That doesn't make any goddamn sense. Even if you're mentally ill, you don't fucking slur. Unless you're on meds. So what the fuck has been in my bedroom where I'm slurring like that? So, there was a time where I had a public breakdown in the middle of the street, and this was shortly after I visited my father. And it was a good time, don't get me wrong. But I think something inside me just switched. And I went onto the street corner and I screamed in the middle of the street. I was wearing a white coat and a bandana. And that incident was filmed. And I growled at people in the street because really I wanted to punch them. And it frustrated me that I wasn't able to do it. Vanessa showed that to everybody in her social circle. The Cursed Spawn has a copy of that video and they've watched it too. She showed it to all the people that were surrounding her, including Jasmine, another roommate that came to stay after Nathana Finlater was kicked out. Yeah, so that was shortly after Nathana Finlater was kicked out of the house. There was another girl called Jasmine who came in briefly, and Vanessa Katani basically linked up with her. I think Jasmine tried to throw hexes on me as well, along with Vanessa. And Jasmine used to do this thing where she used to pretend like she couldn't speak English very well when it came to me, and yet when it came to everyone else, I don't think her English was perfect, but I think she spoke more than she let on. That a lot of perps do that. They if their English isn't their first language, they use it to their advantage, so that I can't argue with them if they fuck with me. They do that a lot because I'm very verbal, right? Now, Vanessa also once tried to throw dirt on me for a curse, but it didn't work out. I don't know why it didn't work out. I don't know why she didn't throw the dirt. She was also working with somebody else that I met at the healing center where I used to do my courses. That person knows who they are. I'm not going to mention their name. They've been spying for her. They've been spying for her and for the Freemasons for a while, until we drifted apart. They often use shamanic work to accuse me of throwing curses on them or being an informer of some sort. Now, what narcissistic abuse involves is whatever they are doing to you, they accuse you of doing. So Vanessa used to accuse me of using her. She was using me to get information out of me, because she confessed herself while we were sitting there in the living room that somebody had a file on me. So she was using me, just like this person was accusing me of throwing curses on them when they were throwing curses on me the entire time. And they thought I had no idea. You see, the thing with me is that I'm very impressionable and I'm very naive. Don't let the intelligence fool you. I can be very naive when I want to be. And there are times where if somebody's lying to me, I almost believe it. It's like I end up mirroring their behavior. And in mirroring their behavior, I ended up exposing their behavior. They were lying to me the entire time and trying to make out like that shit was supernatural. So I did it back. Vanessa Katani also once turned off the boiler and had baths and showers elsewhere. I had cold baths or cold showers because I thought, fuck it. And like I said before, that cold bath and cold shower, I'll get to that when I get to the Romanian stalkers. Because that has something to do with them as well. Not the cold water itself, but they're involved in stuff to do with that. So she also accused me of trying to get her hospitalized. Yeah, so basically, if you see in the assault video, she accused me of trying to get her hospitalized and trying to commit suicide. Again, with narcissists, you always have to point the finger backwards. If she's accusing me of trying to get her to commit suicide and trying to get her hospitalized, what she's actually doing is confessing to attempted coercive murder. Because why are you trying to get somebody to kill themselves, and why are you trying to get somebody into hospital knowing what those drugs do? I also, sometime after she left as well, sometime after she was kicked out, a short blonde woman came over to the house and said, "I'm from the National Crime Agency, is Vanessa Katani here?" I don't know what kind of power, I don't know who the fuck Vanessa Katani is connected to. She must be connected to some criminal outlet or something, some criminal ring, because this bitch is powerful. This bitch has power on levels that I've never seen from other perps since. So I'm trying to figure out what the fuck, what kind of power does this woman have? Right? So National Crime Agency came around looking for her. Again, none of the incidents that I've listed are in chronological order. I write them down as I remember them, right? She also told me that Nathana's boyfriend, Leon Rowe, another perp, and the same perp who robbed the house repeatedly, and apparently stabbed Nathana allegedly. I can't prove that. He stabbed her allegedly over my Twitter, right? Vanessa also told me that Leon Rowe hit on her behind Nathana's back, yet her, Nathana, and Leon are thick as thieves out here, stalking me and harassing me. Every single opportunity they got, they were banging on my fucking door, they were bothering me, they were hassling me out of the bathroom. Every single instance they got with regards to harassing me and stalking me, every single opportunity they had, they took it. Every chance they got. You mean to tell me you're talking about people who are stalking you and hitting on other people and hitting on you while they've got girlfriends, and you're working alongside these people? I don't even think she was lying about that. I think she was telling the truth. Yeah, Vanessa also... No, Cindy. Right. Cindy Hahn wrote, if perpetrators attack you, just turn on the music as loud as possible. You know why I don't do that? It's because when the electronic weaponry happens, loud volume actually bounces the frequencies around and actually makes it worse. That's why I try not to do that. So that's not good advice. Like, Cindy, don't repeat that to anyone else. That's not good advice at all, right? So, okay, and we come on to Vanessa spreading rumors about me looking at her friend's pussy. That's what topping means. I didn't realize that's what topping meant. I thought topping meant something else. She accused me of looking at her friend's pussy. Now let's go back to that incident. This was when me and her were still friends, right? It was her, some guy called Tantrum, his real name's Ricardo, and another friend, right, of hers, a black female, really good looking woman. No, Cindy, it doesn't work. I heard that from other TIs. It said, you know, they were getting drunk, and long story short, everybody started taking off. I had my period at that time. Sorry. Everybody was getting their clothes off, taking their clothes off, yeah. And I had my fully clothes on. I was dressed in black. So while there was action going on between me and another friend, there was no below the belt action between myself and that other person in the room, right? Because I had my clothes on. And still she went around lying that I licked this girl's pussy out. I didn't do anything like that. And if I did something like that, I certainly wouldn't have lied about it, because I'm not ashamed of my sexuality. Okay? Now, there are certain things that I want to reiterate before I end this video, because my battery's running out. This is just part one, by the way. I haven't even touched on the cursed spawn yet, right? What I want to end this video on is smart perps do not go to the police. There is a reason why a lot of perps who know what they're doing, perps who are criminals, they do not go to the police. They even discourage their friends from going to the police. Because if they report me on harassment and they report me on stuff that they are not supposed to be doing, then it leaves a paper trail. There are people who have reported my Twitter knowing good and goddamn well I didn't show them my Twitter page and they're not supposed to be on it. It's illegal. So smart perps don't call the police. They never call the police because they've got too many crimes on their back. They never do that. Only powerful perps do. Only powerful perps get the police involved because they've got the sway to be able to do it. And Vanessa Katani was one of those people who had the sway to get the police on her side. Once again, somebody from the NCA fucking came around to see her. Do you understand what I'm telling you? Somebody from the NCA came around to see this bitch. So she's close to Brent Mind. If somebody's offering you a fucking lift, you gotta be close to these motherfuckers. You've got to be close. You know what I'm saying? And it's only for this reason that she could do as much as she did before she decided to leave. She wasn't fucking kicked out. She decided to leave. And the thing is, she also knows somebody, the person underneath me that was screaming when I was doing the last live, he actually knows her. I'm not mentioning his name because, again, I'm letting the chips fall where they may. But the person underneath me, I revealed his name already. You already know who he is. But He lives underneath me. She knows who this guy is. She has a previous relationship with this guy. She has been talking to this guy and to Samira Igal, who lives next to me. Since I've mentioned her name online, she's been talking to them both. I know that for a fact, right? Because Samira's been trying to contact everybody else to get to make counter videos on me, saying I was crazy and all the rest of it. Well, no shit, I'm crazy. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. There is literal evidence of you trying to set me up repeatedly, of you harassing me repeatedly. What the fuck have I got to lose if I go online and tell everybody this? Especially if you're going to try and get me into hospital where you know my claims are going to be inadmissible in court anyway. So what the fuck have I got to lose? You ain't got no goddamn leverage. Don't fuck around with me. And hang on, let me see what else I've written here. Hang on a sec. I'm going to get my word up. So only powerful perps contacted the police. Intelligent perps don't contact the police ever, because they know they know the consequences. They don't ever do that shit, just in case something like this happens. So yeah, the same person who lives underneath me, who caught themselves calling the police on me and saying that I was making death threats and shit like that, that same person harassed me after the fact, after the alleged incident. After the alleged incident, early 6th of July, right? They continued to harass me under instructions from somebody else. They continue to do it. So what does that tell you? That's incitement to violence. And once again, I showed my social media to Catherine Newton, Vanessa Catani, Nathana Finlater, Assumpta Amber, who was another perp, but she kept herself to herself, Dash Tulsi. Those were the 5 people that I showed my social media to because of the leaflets. I also showed the leaflets to Cursed Spawn and the Devils next door to where I lived at Chatsworth. I also showed it to them. So those 5 people, okay, maybe everybody else looking at it might be illegal, but those 5 people, not illegal. And yet when I confronted them about it, when I confronted Vanessa Catani in particular about it, they tried to fucking deny it and play off like they didn't know what I was talking about. They tried to play off like they didn't know what I was talking about, that I was making it up. Or that, you know, they don't have any grievances with me over my social media, yet they're going to gaslight at the top of their lungs about it at every single opportunity. And every single time I went online and cussed them out, they want to respond to it. Then why deny it? Why deny it? I gave you so many outs. When I came to you and said, look, I've been talking about you on your social media, I came to you and told you that. The only reason why I had the warning letter from Brent Mind is because I told them that. They always wait for me to confess to doing something before they use it against me. That's what this program does. It gets you codependent to the point where you are honest about everything that you do, even if it goes against you, right? Where you have lowered ambitions and you become codependent on the authorities around you. That's what the abuse does. And then they turn around and use it in order to make you even more dependent on the system. That's what the fuck this program does. And just like I said to the police, it goes beyond the police. It goes beyond the council. I believe it goes to intelligence services. But once again, I have to let the chips fall where they may. You understand what I'm saying? So I handed them a bat. They swung and they missed. What does that fucking tell you? All of these circumstances, all of these hospital visits. Remember, I was hospitalized during my time at Chatsworth. And at no point was my social media mentioned. Why? Because they know a good majority of people that were on it were not supposed to be. Now I gotta end this for part 1 because my battery's running out. I spat a lot on this thing. What the fuck? A lot of spittle going on. This is a long video, and there are a lot of people around me. Like, it is getting very suspect. But again, I focus on my home and where I live because that's the key. For me, for somebody else, their key might be work. For somebody else, their key might be their relationships. For me, my key is my home. Once I'm able to make sense of what's going on in my house, I'm able to make sense of everything else going on around me. And from there, you can actually connect the dots in a way that you actually understand what's going on, rather than this just being the ramblings of a paranoid mental person. One thing I want to end on, right? I want to go back to the fact that they're trying to bring up the medication issue repeatedly. I have 2 questions, right? First of all, why do you keep trying to use my medication in order to get out of having to take accountability for being on my social media illegally, and for fucking using my social media to try and get me evicted and try and get me hospitalized? Why are you using my medication? I keep telling you. I keep telling Brentman, I've got it recorded, that when I'm abused, I tend to retreat into myself. I skip my medications. I don't do what I'm supposed to do. If my home is not settled and I am being abused, then I tend to be very reclusive and not do what I'm supposed to do. This is a trend that's been going on since I was young. If I'm abused, I stay in my room. That's what happens. And yet you want to turn around and try to realign that and say that because I'm not, because you think that I'm not taking my medications, and you think that I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, that it's grounds for you to hospitalize me and do what you're doing. But all the hospitalization does is prove exactly what I've been saying. Because why the fuck are you hospitalizing me if you know somebody else is harassing me? If somebody else is harassing me to that level, that means they've got mental problems that are unforeseen. Shouldn't they be in hospital? What are you doing? Shouldn't they be in hospital? Now, what is going on here? So again, if you're going to get me into hospital, don't think for 1 second, if you're going to try and maneuver your way to get me into hospital and to have meds on me that I'm not, and to have stronger meds on me that is going to exacerbate my illnesses, that's coercion, that's coercive murder, then good and goddamn well I'm not going to go out like that. I'm going to make sure I have insurance, and I'm going to get everything on everybody. I haven't even started yet. This is part 1. Part 2 is coming up very, very soon. I just have to decide when. So, how do I end this? I'm taking my medications. I don't want to. I've been taking them for 3 years, and all they've ever done is exacerbate my mental health and exacerbate everything that's happening around me, which is exactly what they want. Why do they want me taking meds? You're dealing with mental health officials that are keen to dole out medications, knowing good and goddamn well that physical illnesses such as PMDD and PCOS and endometriosis and a whole host of other allergies of the liver and the brain and wheat intolerances can also cause mental health issues. In fact, mental health issues is to do with physical health. It's got nothing to do with anything else. And if you're going to turn around and say it's to do with environment, then that means you have to admit that abuse played a massive part in landing me in hospital, which you've done nothing about. So you are culpable. If you're going to get me into hospital on the grounds that you think I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I've explained why. The abuse makes me slip and slide on my mental welfare, my mental well-being. It has always been that way. Look back through my records. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? And my symptoms, all my mental health symptoms, you know, until that blip 3 years ago, all my mental health systems were consistent with premenstrual dysmorphic disorder, PTSD, PCOS, and fucking endometriosis. You've got that all on your website, apart from the endometriosis and the PCOS, Brent Mind. It's on the Mind website. Narcissistic abuse. I think even narcissistic abuse is on the Mind website. I have to go check. But they know good and goddamn well the effect that abuse has on the body, and how that in turn affects the mind. They know. And yet they're trying to act like they don't know. They're trying to act like, oh, you know, she might not be taking her medications and that's why this is happening. No, you know full fucking well that's why this is happening. There's evidence all over my social media. Stop trying to pin it on my medications. And the reason why you're pinning it on my medications is because you want me on stronger meds so that this situation can worsen and you can actually get what you want. You can get the violence you want and you can get the suicide that you want. That's terrorism, guys. That's terrorism, that's coercive murder, and the hospitalization, that's also trafficking. That's trafficking, coercive murder, terrorism, and the fact that you're willing to lie like this, you've incriminated yourself completely. There's evidence of you incriminating yourself. So of course you've got to get me locked up in order to cover all that shit up. Why are you so keen to get me on the meds? What the fuck do those meds do? What the fuck do those meds do? Why are you so keen to get me on stronger meds? Why do you keep reiterating the point about my medications? Why do you keep trying to make out like I'm not taking them? Why do you keep doing that? What is going on? And now I gotta go. My battery's running out. I'm pretty sure there's something I've forgotten. I'm gonna kick myself, but I've gotta go because my battery's running low. I implore you to take care of yourselves. And part 2 is coming up. I just don't know when. It depends on what the police decide about my mental health. So take care of yourselves. See you later.